Welcome back to Living in the Word, and today we are looking at part 2 of the story of Joseph in Egypt. So let's begin. Genesis 42 verses 1 to 17. When Jacob realized that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" Then he said, "Look, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." And the 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, with his brothers, for he feared harm would come to him. Then the sons of Israel went to buy grain amid those other people who went as well, for there was famine in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was the governor of the land. He was the one who sold food to all the people of the land. And the brothers of Joseph came and bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. And Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger to them. And he spoke with them harshly and said to them, "From where have you come?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed concerning them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said to him, "No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We all are sons of one man. We are honest men. We, your servants, are not spies." Then he said to them, "No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land." Then they said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. But behold, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is what I said to you, you are spies. By this you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you will not go out from here unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother. But you will be kept in prison so that your words might be tested to see if there is truth with you. And if not, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." Then he gathered them into the prison for 3 days. Joseph recognizes his brothers, although they do not recognize him, and that's understandable. They are not sure what he looks like now. He accuses them of being spies in order to see if they have changed from what they used to be. Genesis 42 verses 18 to 28. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live. I fear God. If you are honest, let one of your brothers be kept in prison, where you are now being kept. But the rest of you go, carry grain for the famine for your households. You must bring your youngest brother to me, and then your words will be confirmed, and you will not die." And they did so. Then each said to his brother, "Surely we are guilty on account of our brother, when we saw the anguish of his soul, when he pleaded for mercy to us, and we would not listen. Therefore this trouble has come to us." Then Reuben answered them, saying, "Did I not say to you, do not sin against the boy? But you did not listen, and now behold, his blood has been sought." Now they did not know that Joseph understood, for the interpreter was between them. And he turned away from them and wept. Then he returned to them and spoke to them, and took Simeon from them, and tied him up in front of them. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, and to return their money to each sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. Thus he did for them. Then they loaded their grain upon their donkeys and went away from there. And one of them later opened his sack to give fodder to his donkey at the lodging place, and saw his money. Behold, it was in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, "My money was returned, and moreover, behold, it is in my sack." Then their hearts failed them, and each of them trembled and said, "What is this God has done to us?" Joseph decides to keep Simeon and releases the others to return home. He gives them grain and returns their payment. Now, it's unclear whether Joseph was being generous or just wanted to test their honesty. Genesis 42, verses 29 to 38. And when they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke harshly to us and treated us as if we were spying out the land. But we said to him, 'We are honest, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, the sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father now in the land of Canaan.' Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, 'By this I will know that you are honest. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take food for the famine in your households, and go. And bring your youngest brother to me. Then I will know that you are not spies, but you are honest. I will give your brother back to you, and you will trade in the land.' And it happened that when they emptied their sacks, behold, each one's pouch of money was in the sack. And when they and their father saw the pouches of their money, they were greatly distressed. And Jacob their father said to them, 'You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and Benjamin you would take. All of this is against me.' Then Reuben said to his father, 'You may kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hand, and I myself will return him to you.' But he said, 'My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone remains. If harm meets him on the journey that you would take, you would bring down my grey head in sorrow to Sheol.' Now, after hearing what had happened, Jacob still refuses to allow Benjamin to go with them, saying that basically he'll die, and that's Sheol. Sheol is basically death or Hades, I suppose. Genesis 43 verses 1 to 14. Now the famine in the land was severe, and it happened that as they finished eating the grain which they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, 'Return and buy little food for us.' Then Judah said to him, 'The man solemnly admonished us, saying, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.' Then Israel said, 'Why did you bring trouble to me by telling the man you still had a brother?' And they said, 'The man asked explicitly about us and about our family, saying, Is your father still alive? Do you have a brother?' And we answered him according to these words. How could we know that he would say, Bring down your brother?' Then Judah said to his father Israel, 'Send the boy with me, and let us arise and go, so that we will live and not die. You, we, and our children. I myself will be surety for him. You may seek him from my hand. If I do not bring him back to you and present him before you, then I will stand guilty before you forever. Surely if we had not hesitated by this time, we would have returned twice.' Then their father Israel said to them, 'If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the best products of the land in your bags and take them down to the man as a gift, a little balm and honey, aromatic gum and myrrh, and pistachios and almonds. And take double the money with you. Take back with you the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. And take your brother. Now arise and return to the man, and may El Shaddai grant you compassion before the man, that he may release your older brother, your other brother to you, and Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved.' After finishing all the food from Egypt, Jacob needs to send his sons back to Egypt, but this time they must go with Benjamin, and they also take some gifts and double the payment for the new grain and the payment that was returned to their sacks. Genesis 43 verses 15 to 25. So the men took this gift, and they took double money in their hands, and Benjamin, and they rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the one who was over his household, Bring the men into the house, and slaughter and prepare an animal, for the men shall eat with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph had said, and the man brought the men into the house of Joseph, and the men were afraid when they were brought into the house of Joseph. And they said, we were brought here on account of the money that was returned to our sacks the first time, that he might attack us and fall upon us to take us as slaves with our donkeys. So they approached the man who was over Joseph's house and spoke to him at the doorway of the house. And they said, please, my lord, we surely came down once before to buy food. But when we came to the place of lodging, we opened our sacks. Then behold, each one's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in its full weight. So we have returned it with it in our hands. Now other money we have brought down in our hand to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks. And he said, peace to you. Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father must have given you a treasure in your sacks. Your money came to me. And he brought Simeon out to them. Then the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and he gave them water and washed their feet and gave fodder to their donkeys. Then they laid out the gift until Joseph came at noon, for they had heard that they were to eat food there. So they arrive in Egypt, and Joseph invites them to his house for lunch. Now they tell the steward of the house about the money that was found or returned in their sacks, but the steward puts it down to their God. Simeon is then returned, and now Joseph arrives at the house. Genesis 43 verses 26 to 34. And when Joseph came into the house, they brought the gift that was in their hand into the house to him, and they bowed down before him to the ground. And he greeted them and said, is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? And they said, your servant, our father is well. He is still alive. And they knelt and bowed down. Then he lifted up his eyes and saw Benjamin his brother, the son of his mother, and said, is this your youngest brother of whom you told me? And he continued, God be gracious to you, my son. Then Joseph hurried away, being overcome with emotion towards his brother, and sought for a place to cry. Then he went into a room and wept there. Then he washed his face and went out, now controlling himself, and said, serve the food. And they served him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who were eating with them by themselves. For Egyptians could not dine with Hebrews, because that was a detestable thing to Egyptians. And they were seated before him, from the firstborn according to his birthright to the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another amazed. And portions were served to them from his table. And the portion of Benjamin was 5 times greater than the portion of any of them. And they drank and became drunk with him. So now Joseph enters, and after seeing Benjamin, he rushes away to cry. Now, after getting himself emotionally settled, Joseph comes back in, and they serve the food. Now, Joseph eats alone because of his political status. The Egyptians eat alone because of their sense of racial superiority. And Benjamin receives a larger portion of food. Now, there's no real indication here of why, but perhaps Joseph is trying to provoke a jealous response from his brothers. Perhaps because Benjamin is the daughter of Rachel, his own mother, that he did this as well. So there's real no indication of why he did that. Genesis 44 verses 1 to 17. Then he commanded the one who was over his household, saying, fill the sacks of the men with food as much as they are able to carry, and put each one's money in the mouth of his sack. And my cup, the cup of silver, you shall put into the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and the money for his grain. And he did according to the word of Joseph that he had commanded. When the morning light came, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. They went out of the city and had not gone far when Joseph said to the one who was over his house, arise, pursue after the men and overtake them. Then you shall say to them, why have you repaid evil for good? Is this not that which Is this not that from which my master drinks? Now he himself certainly practices divination with it. You have done evil in what you have done." When he overtook them, he spoke these words to them, and they said to him, "Why has my Lord spoken according to these words? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouth of our sacks we returned to you from the land of Canaan. Now why would we steal silver or gold from the house of my Lord? Whoever is found with it from among your servants shall die, and moreover we will become slaves to my Lord." Then he said, "Now also according to your words thus will it be. He who is found with it shall be my slave, but you shall be innocent." Then each man quickly brought down his sack to the ground, and each one opened his sack. And he searched, beginning with the oldest and finishing with the youngest, and the cup was found in the sack of Benjamin. Then they tore their clothes, and each one loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. And Judah and his brothers came to the house of Joseph. Now he was still there. They fell before him to the ground, and Joseph said to them, "What is this deed that you have done? Did you not know that a man who is like me surely practices divination?" And Judah said, "What can we say to my lord? What can we speak? Now how can we show ourselves innocent? God has found the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are slaves to my lord, both we and also he in whose hand the cup was found." But he said, "Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he will become my slave. But as for you, go up in peace to your father." Joseph had one more test in mind. He orders his servant to hide his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. After the brothers had left, he orders his servants to chase after them. And after their capture, Joseph decides to keep Benjamin as a slave. Genesis 44 verses 18 to 34. But Judah drew near to him and said, "Please, my lord, let your servant speak a word in the ears of my lord, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself." My lord had asked his servants, saying, "Do you have a father or a brother?" And we said to my lord, "We have an aged father and a younger brother, the child of his old age, and his brother died, and he alone remains from his mother, and his father loves him." Then you said to your servants, "Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes upon him." Then we said to my lord, "The boy cannot leave his father. If he should leave his father, then he would die." Then you said to your servants, "Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not again see my face." And it happened that when we went up to your servant, my father, and told him the words of my lord, and when our father said, "Go back, buy a little food for us," then we said, "We cannot go down. If our youngest brother is with us, then we shall go down. For we will not be able to see the face of the man unless our youngest brother is with us." Then your servant my father said to us, "You yourselves know that my wife bore 2 sons to me. One went out from me, and I said, 'Surely he must have been torn to pieces,' and I have never seen him since. And if you take this one also from me, and he encounters harm, you will bring down my grey head in sorrow to Sheol. So now when I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, now his life is bound up with his life. It shall happen that when he sees that the boy is gone, he will die. And your servants will bring down the grey head of your servant, our father, to Sheol with sorrow. For your servant is pledged as surety for the boy by my father, saying, 'If I do not bring him to you, then I shall be culpable to my father forever.' So then please let your servant remain in place of the boy as a slave to my lord, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how can I go up to my father if the boy is not with me? I do not want to see the misery which will find my father." Judah now pleads with Joseph, explaining that this would cause his father to die. He also explains that his own life is dependent on Benjamin's return. Genesis 45 verses 1 to 28. Then Joseph was not able to control himself before all who were standing by him, and he cried out, "Make every man go out from me." So no one stood with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and he wept loudly so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? And his brothers were unable to answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, Come near to me, please. And they drew near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. So now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves that you sold me here. For God sent me as deliverance before you. For these 2 years the famine has been in the midst of the land, but there will be 5 more years where there is no ploughing or harvest. And God sent me before you all to preserve you for your remnant in the land, and to keep alive among you many survivors. So now you yourselves did not send me here, but God put me here as father to Pharaoh, and as master of all his household, and a ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me and do not delay. You shall settle in the land of Goshen, so that you will be near me, you and your children and your grandchildren, and your flocks and your herds, and all that you have, and I will provide for you there. Because there are still 5 years of famine, lest you and your household and all that you have become destitute. Now behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is I who am speaking to you, and you must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt, and all that you have seen. Now hurry and bring my father here. Then he fell upon the neck of his brother Benjamin and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them, and afterward his brothers spoke with him. Then the report was heard in the house of Pharaoh, saying, Joseph's brothers have come. And it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say to your brothers, do this, load your donkeys and go back to the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households, and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. And you, Joseph, are commanded to say this, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives, and bring your father and come. Do not worry about your possessions, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. And the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons at the word of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions for the journey. To each and to all of them he gave sets of clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 sets of clothing. And to his father he sent as follows, 10 donkeys carrying the best of Egypt, and 10 donkeys carrying grain and food and provisions for his father for the journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and when they departed he said to them, Do not be agitated on the journey. So they went up from Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to Jacob their father. And they spoke to him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. And his heart went numb because he did not believe them. Then they told him all the words of Joseph that he had spoken to them. And when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, then the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough. Joseph my son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So Joseph reveals himself to his brothers and explained that it was God's plan to have him here in order to save their lives. Pharaoh then orders them to bring their household to Egypt, not just to Egypt, but to the best land in Egypt. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next video, and God bless.